No, I think this. No, no. I find your thoughts very interesting. And you've added a new perspective to the debate. I'll get into Kartikeya and then open this up to Abhishek. Because, and I personally believe, I mean, I'm quite clear the answer to this is to have a large presence in global media on our own. And Republic is committed to that. Right. We have announced it. It's just a question of putting together the capital, the funds. And if any network will from India, it will be Republic. Sohail knows. We're silently working on that. And we're going to counter it in a large way, not in a small, organic way. It has to be in a big way. But a very important point, Kartik and Abhishek, that have been raised here by Dr. Chahil, we must think. Because when during COVID, you know, front page covers the burning funeral pyres of in India. India is the worst struck country by COVID, right? And when New York Times talks about the death of democracy in Modi's India, Muslims being dehumanized, Modi's India is where global democracy dies, all of this benefits China a big deal. It is genuinely, I mean, it could be very well pre-planned. And there have been studies about how deeply the Chinese have actually tried to influence the global media narrative. And quite successfully so. So I'd like Kartik's take on that. And then Abhishek, you can take it forward.
Arnab, you know, I entirely agree with you that we have to respond back. And the reason is this. Yes, I agree with Sushantji that these journalists and these media publications will not change. That I 100% agree with. But what I do believe in is that if you respond to them and if you have a voice as large as Republic or even as small as, you know, a Twitter comment, that will influence the readers of these newspapers and magazines. Because ultimately, who are these people reaching? The readers. And if the readers are then aware of an alternative view, and which is actually grounded in reality and fact and even logic, compelling logic, that makes a lot of difference. And also I agree with the speaker before me, Dr. Chalil. These journalists essentially are, you know, they have fancy degrees from universities, but with vacuous understanding of almost any issue that they cover, and not just related to India, even related to the West. And you see, you know, just look at Elon Musk's replies to some of them, and you'll just realize the sheer lack of knowledge and ignorance that they have. They essentially, but I call them rubber stamp journalists and rubber stamp reporters. We have had rubber stamp prime ministers. US has a rubber stamp president. So we know that concept. These are rubber stamp journalists who essentially have a pro forma, a format that they have to fill in based on any development that's happening. So Ram Mandir consecration ceremony, okay, you have a pro forma format, talk about how Muslims are in danger, talk about how Muslims are in fear, and somehow interpret Modi's speech to essentially mean that. You know, just a couple of days ago, or maybe a few days ago, there was a reporter working for a German newspaper. I forgot the name. It was DW News or something like that. She actually tweeted that I am doing stories on Muslims who have left India because of fear of persecution and threats of violence. Please give me names of Muslims who have fled India, and preferably to Germany. You see the bizarreness of this. Normally, what should a reporter do? They should find a story that, you know, okay, this is what has happened, and then reach to a conclusion. Here, the conclusion is already, and now they're finding facts, or maybe even in some cases concocting facts in order to do that. So, yes, they are ignorant. Yes, a lot of ground reporters follow a pre-designed format. They have that template ready, or toolkit, whatever you call it, ready. Now, who is controlling it? Yes, there are many forces that are anti-India. There are many forces who don't want India to succeed. They are essentially controlling the agenda. But I 100% agree that has to be responded, because today India is really one of the most compelling forces of the world. And therefore, we can no longer say that what is covered about India in these foreign newspapers doesn't matter anymore, because it does. There are at least a handful of influential people who read that, and then they amplify it in their own way.
I need to make here. One point I need to make here. Look how meek they are when real human rights issues come up. What is the word they use, Sohail, all the time? Backsliding of democracy. Yeah. Backsliding of democracy. I would say democracy in the United Kingdom is in collapse. It's in reverse gear. Look at what they have done. You can pick up any asylum seeker who in desperate circumstances gets on a boat because he has nowhere to live. He's traumatized. He may be a victim of assault, torture, political attacks, economic deprivation, which may force him to seek asylum in the United Kingdom. But what has Rishi Sunak done? He has passed a bill. He has passed a bill which, by the way, suffered a defeat today, saying that you can just pick up these people like they're animals.
Send them to Rwanda.
Put them on a plane and send them to Rwanda. And pay the government of Rwanda to keep them in Rwanda. This is so shocking. But BBC didn't have the guts to open its mouth on that. None of the people, including the Indians, who are going on BBC and elsewhere to abuse India, have the courage to say that the United Kingdom is the most inhuman government if it passes this bill. They never said anything. They were almost apologetic in reporting that bill.
So
I'm pointing this out for the hypocrisy, Abhishek, and then you can take it with Sohail.
Arnab, they will only
before
do
Sohail
that if
responds,
the Islamic Caliphate or the Chinese Caliphate
the manner in
order
which they
them
have
to do
treated
it.
Donald Trump is stopping him from contesting in 2 states. Kartikeya, right?
But I want to get in on this Rwanda bill. The British never pointed it out, and neither did BBC speak a word about it or squeak about it. Sohail.
So let me analyze for you what actually happens. There's a cabal of people from our country and people of Indian origin or Indians in the diaspora or overseas who believe that by attacking India, they're actually showing remarkable courage. They want to stand out as heroes of free speech, but actually they are cowards and villains of what I would call manufactured narratives. But no one knows that. Second, academic and the academia world has forever been riddled with scoundrels who are left-leaning, which is why, Arnab, our history was so contrived till Narendra Modi came on the scene. You had the Romila Thapas, you had the Irfan Habibs actually creating a historical narrative that wasn't true. It was what served their purpose, and it was what served the purpose of the West. Today, India is calling them out, and that is what is troubling them. They are today being intellectually challenged. They are being economically challenged. They are being civilizationally challenged. They have nowhere to hide. So when someone, it's like a deer which comes in front of the headlights. Today, those headlights are of Indian origin, and the deer are the cowards who manufactured the narrative thus far, but now realize it can't be manufactured anymore. I want to touch upon something that Kartikeya spoke about in relation to what you had said. Look, respond, but respond strategically, not tactically. Don't respond with a statement which is born out of bravado. Arey, tu kaun hai? You don't know who I am. No. You have to attack them strategically. And by strategic, I mean you have to create an ecosystem of soft power. My good friend Amish Tripathi, who was at the Nehru Center, spent almost all his time writing books and then launching them. And he knows what the Nehru Center was envisaged as and what it then became. It had become a place for soggy samosas and terrible wine. But there was no promotion of the India narrative whatsoever. We need to restart that. A, B, look at the amount China spends. China spends almost $2 to $3 billion a year compared to us, who may be spending $10 to $12 million a year in promoting soft power. Number three, activate our Indian consuls and Indian consulates and embassies across the world to spread the narrative. What do? Tokenism. Republic Day, hoist the flag and invite all these Johnnies. There is no, to my mind, no strategic manner of amplifying the narrative that we wish to amplify. These are, to my mind,
That's
the
true.
problem areas which we need to address.
Yeah, I think, and I'll get to Sushant there. I think there are two aspects of the discussion, therefore. One is, what do we do with the deracinated Indians? People who are, not in touch or hate where they come from. And the second is, what do we do with the institutional attack, on India's image, which may not just be from deracinated Indians. It may be from institutional frameworks, Chinese, etc. Which of these is more important in your view, strategically, Sushant? Especially in the backdrop of what Joseph said.
I think it's what the narratives which are manufactured within India that are in many ways much more important, because that is the mirror for the rest of the world. So, for example, Arnab, when you are looking at the United States, or you're trying to find out something which is happening in the United States, what's your first instinct? You will go to some of the big names in the media and try and see what they are reporting on. That's the normal attitude. What do they do when when they want to find out something on India? They'll come, check out some Indian newspapers, check out some websites, stuff like that. That is their interface with India, right? And what they get to read out here mostly is the kind of drivel which is written by these self-loathing characters out here, who actually are very ignorant about the realities of India, like that journalist Kartikeya is talking about, and I could name many more like those. And many of these guys do a lot of virtue signaling because that gets them junkets. Western universities will call them so that they can speak out there. They'll be called to seminars. Yeah. Nobody wants to call you to a seminar if you're going to go out there and speak some home truths to them. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody will want to hear you tell the Americans, how they've messed up in Afghanistan, or how they've messed up in Bangladesh, or their duplicity in Pakistan, etc., etc. Nobody wants to hear that, right? So they'll call somebody who will say, America Bahadur, greatest, the best, the most liberal, you have spread civilization around the world. That's what they want to hear. And many of these characters will go out there and say precisely this. And they will also say, but America, why are you not interfering in India? Why are you not saying something about India? So that is also happening, including some political leaders do it, right? So this is a bigger problem to my mind. Look, what is going to happen at an institutional level, that is part and parcel of how international diplomacy and power politics operates.
Yes.
Those are what Dr. Jaishankar also called mind games that are played. So they will use, their media, and they will use their institutions to target you in various ways, undermine your confidence. But a lot of it gets the material to do this from within India. And I'm not saying that you censor these people. I'm certainly not my case that you shut them up, put them in jail. Absolutely not. I'm totally against that. But what I'm saying is that if you really want to counter a narrative, then you need to counter the narrative which is being manufactured within India. And again, a lot of people are doing it with facts. A lot
we need to be conscious about it.
Logic. And I think that is the way to go.
Yeah. So sum total we got to talk about it. And I'm glad we've had a very, very good and deep conversation on it. I wish I had more time. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.